The first rule she gave him was simple: no feelings. The second rule was impossible: pretend you're my husband. But when his daughter asked, "Daddy, is she staying forever?" he knew this lie was about to change everything. Ethan Cole hadn't expected his boss to show up at his tiny rental house at midnight, standing in the rain, heels in hand, mascara streaked like she'd lost a war. He definitely hadn't expected her to look at him, her employee, a widowed single dad who barely made rent, and say the sentence that would flip his life upside down. "Pretend to be my husband for 1 year." For a long moment, the rain did all the talking. Ethan stood there holding the door open, his 6-year-old daughter Lily peeking from behind his leg, clutching her stuffed rabbit. His boss, Claire Monroe, CEO, Ice Queen executive, woman who terrified boardrooms, was shaking. 1 year, Claire repeated, voice cracking. Public appearances, dinners, living together. After that, we walk away. Ethan laughed, because the alternative was panic. "So let me get this straight. You want a broke single dad who works in your logistics department to pretend he married the most powerful woman in the company?" "Yes." "And you came to my house?" "Yes." "And this isn't a joke?" Claire swallowed. "My inheritance depends on it. My father's will. If I'm not happily married for 1 year, control of the company goes to my uncle. He's already preparing to tear it apart." Ethan looked down at Lily. She looked up at Claire with wide, curious eyes. "Are you a princess?" Lily asked. Claire froze, then slowly knelt. "No," she said softly, "but I might need saving." That was the moment Ethan should have said no. Instead, he stepped aside. "Come in." The agreement was signed 2 days later. Lawyers, NDAs, strict rules. Claire moved into Ethan's modest home because paparazzi would never look there. Her penthouse was suddenly under renovation. The company announced the shocking marriage. Social media exploded. And then came the first awkward night. Claire stood in the doorway of Ethan's bedroom, suitcase beside her. "There's only one bed." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "I can sleep on the couch." She shook her head. "If we're seen as distant, people will talk. My uncle will notice." Silence stretched between them. "So," Ethan said carefully, "we're sharing a bed?" "Yes," she replied, equally careful. "But nothing changes." Nothing did, and everything did. The first nights were stiff and sleepless, a pillow wall between them. No touching, no talking, just two strangers breathing in the dark. But then Lily started crawling into bed during nightmares, wedging herself between them like she belonged there. Claire learned how to make pancakes that didn't burn. Ethan learned Claire hated thunderstorms and slept with the light on. She watched him read bedtime stories, doing all the voices, even when exhausted. At work, Claire was still the boss. At home, she was human. And one night, after a brutal board meeting, Claire broke down at the kitchen table, hands shaking. Ethan didn't ask questions. He just poured tea and sat beside her. "You don't have to be strong here," he said quietly. Claire covered her face. "No one's ever said that to me." The lie was starting to feel dangerously real. The contract said no love. But the night she reached for his hand in the dark, Ethan realized the real risk wasn't losing the deal. It was losing her. The cracks began showing 3 months in. Claire's uncle started pushing harder, questioning Ethan's past, his finances, his late wife. Reporters dug. Board members whispered. And then there was Lily, who started calling Claire Mom by accident. Claire corrected her once, gently. She never did again. Ethan tried to keep distance. He reminded himself this was temporary, that Claire would return to her world of power and wealth, that he'd go back to being invisible. But pretending to be married meant defending each other, choosing each other, showing up. When Claire got sick, Ethan stayed up all night cooling her forehead. When Ethan's car broke down, Claire showed up to his job site in heels and paid the mechanic in cash. When Lily had a school performance, Claire sat in the front row, crying harder than anyone. The board noticed. The public noticed. So did Ethan's heart. The breaking point came during a charity gala. Claire's uncle cornered Ethan, smiling cruelly. "Enjoying the lifestyle? Don't forget your place." Before Ethan could respond, Claire stepped between them, hand gripping Ethan's arm. "You're speaking to my husband," she said coldly, "and my family." Family. That night, back home, the silence was heavy. Lily asleep, the house dark. "This wasn't part of the deal," Ethan said quietly. Claire nodded. "I know." "Then why does it feel like you meant it?" She looked at him, eyes full of fear. "Because I did." They didn't kiss. They didn't touch. They just stood there, the truth finally louder than the lie. Weeks later, the final condition was met. The year was almost over. Control of the company secured, the contract ending. Claire packed her suitcase. "I'll move back to the penthouse tomorrow," she said, voice steady. Lily overheard. "Are you leaving us?" Claire knelt, tears falling freely now. "I don't want to." Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding. "Then don't." She looked up. "The contract." "Forget the contract," he said. "I don't need pretending anymore." Silence. Then Claire stood, walked to him, and rested her forehead against his chest. "Neither do I." They stayed, not because of a will, not because of power, but because love had grown where a lie once lived. And for the first time in years, Ethan realized something powerful. Sometimes the family you fake becomes the family that saves you. Final message for viewers. Love doesn't always arrive the right way, but when it does, it asks one question. Are you brave enough to stop pretending?